Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
We have you loud and clear. How do you have us?
Hello and good morning from all of us here at home on Earth. Today we are speaking to you from Rubio, Texas. My name is Jacqueline Peña and I am an ambassador for the South Texas Astronomical Society. Our mission is to ignite curiosity through space science and STEM, and today we will accomplish exactly that by connecting our students to astronauts aboard the International Space Station and asking a few questions. We would like to thank NASA for giving our community this amazing opportunity, and NASA astronauts Frank Rubio and Jasmin Moghbeli for sharing your time with us today. Now, on to our first question.
Hi, my name is Caitlin. My question is, from your experience working on the International Space Station, what features would you like to add to future space stations like the Gateway?
Hey, Caitlin, and to all the members of the South Texas Astronomical Society, welcome to the International Space Station. It's great to be hanging out with you guys today and teach you a little bit about space and the International Space Station. So I think, one, we have a pretty awesome station, and they did an amazing job engineering this thing and putting it together up here at 250 miles above the surface of the Earth. But I think I would love to have a window that looks zenith or above us. So our beautiful window, the cupola that we have, currently looks down on the Earth, which is pretty awesome because it is probably the most beautiful thing we see up here. But I think, especially at night, it would be awesome to have a window overhead where we could just gaze at the stars. That would be one of the main things I would add. I would also add another bathroom because as we get more and more people up here, it does get a little bit crowded. And if at all possible, it would be awesome to add a shower to the ISS. When you're up here for 6 months or even a year, that's a long time to go without a shower. We do stay very clean, but it would be nice to have running water every once in a while.
Hi, my name is Medalia, and my question is, what do you remember thinking the first time you were on a spacewalk?
Hey, Medalia. Actually, you know what? I'll take that question too, because Jasmin is going to do a spacewalk here soon, but she hasn't been on one yet. But I know she's going to do awesome when she's out there. And I'll tell you, the most beautiful thing was the view that you get when you're on a spacewalk. And that's because the windows are pretty cool up here, but because of the way that we have to protect them, you do have, even though you have a 360 view, it's a little bit limited by the structural elements that hold the window panes in place. But when you're out on a spacewalk, your helmet has wider view than your peripheral vision. And so you feel like you're looking at the Earth and looking at the heavens with just your plain eyes. And it's just magnificent how it all looks. So that was pretty amazing. The other really cool thing that I really enjoyed was just the team that came together to put the spacewalk, to plan it, and put it all together and put all the products together. Hundreds of people pitch in. And then we go out and do probably the most challenging thing that we do. And watching that whole team come together is pretty remarkable.
Hi, my name is Paula, and my question is, do you think that animals will ever be able to cohabitate alongside humans in space?
Hi, Paula. So actually, before we put humans in space, we did put other animals in space. The U.S. Flew some monkeys to space. Russia flew some dogs. But now living here on the space station, I'm trying to think about my family back home. We usually have dogs as pets, and I'm thinking about a dog living up here with us. And I think they might have a hard time. They might not be able to hang on to the handrails, but I think we could make some provisions for them and adapt a bit the structure inside here. And I think we could cohabitate with animals.
My name is George, and my question is, out of all the mechanical noises in the space station, which is your favorite?
George, that's a good one. So I'd have to say something that's hopefully constantly a background noise up here is the ventilation running. So, if we don't have that going, then the air just stagnates and you get pockets of CO2 and things like that. And so it becomes a noise that you just become used to, and it's kind of like white noise, but it's very noticeable when that sound of the fans goes off, and it usually means something's not quite right. So I'd have to say that's my favorite sound.
Hi, my name's Peter. My question is, how scary is it to be on a rocket?
Hey, Peter. Well, you know what? It's actually pretty cool. It wasn't very scary at all. The cool thing is that Jasmin came up on a Dragon spacecraft. I came up on a Soyuz. So two totally different rockets. But I think we both felt the same. The cool thing is that we trained for this mission for almost 2 years. And constantly during that time, you're practicing what to do if things go wrong. And so all you ever do is practice emergencies time after time after time, because it's really critical that you do the exact right thing if those things were to happen. But on the day that you launch, everything goes perfectly. And so it's actually pretty chill because nothing's going wrong compared to all the simulations that you've done up until that point. The other thing is that you're so focused on making sure that all the right things are going on and reading your instrument and making sure that the rocket is healthy, that you really don't have a lot of time to think about what's actually going on and how much rocket fuel you're sitting on top of, and the fact that you're speeding up from 0 to almost 15,000 miles per hour. All that stuff's pretty cool, but the reality is most of us are pretty focused on what's going on, and it's not till after we get to space that we actually think about, wow, that was pretty amazing.
Hi, my name is Victor, and my question is, does microgravity affect your perception of time?
Hi, Victor. So speaking of time, up here, the International Space Station goes around the Earth 16 times a day. It's traveling 17,500 miles per hour. So inside, when we're back home on Earth, we use light. The sun and the night kind of sets our circadian rhythm and tells our bodies when we should be waking up and when we should be going to sleep. Up here, we don't have that because we're going in and out of every 90 minutes. So up here, we actually kind of use the lights inside the International Space Station. We turn them on bright during the day and dim them or turn them off at night to kind of set our time inside our bodies.
Hi, my name is Aldo, and my question is, how would you relate your experience in the Air Force to that of being an astronaut?
Hey, Aldo. Well, both Jasmin and I are in the military, but neither of us are Air Force. Jasmin's a Marine. I'm in the Army. But all of the military forces provide astronauts to NASA, and they've done so since the beginning of the space program. The cool thing is that when we work for NASA, we really focus on the science and on the outreach for human space exploration. But I think the military does prepare you in some really good ways. One is the fact that you're part of a team, a really amazing team. And just like in the Army or the Marine Corps, here at NASA, we have amazing people around us that really make the mission happen. And so that's probably the most gratifying thing about it. But the other thing that I think is really important for most of us is that you're contributing to something that's bigger than yourself, and you really feel like you have a purpose, which for us here is to say, hey, we can send humans to space. We've been up here for 23 years, and soon we're going to be going back to the moon and eventually over to Mars. And we know that everything that we do here is contributing to that long-term mission. And so that's a pretty cool sense of satisfaction to know that we're contributing to something that's bigger than ourselves.
Hi, my name is Jorge, and my question is, are there any specific songs or albums that hold a special meaning for you in relation to you and your astronaut career?
Hi, Jorge. So it's funny, when I think back to my time in the military, each deployment is defined by the songs I listen to on it. And when I hear certain songs, it takes me back to those deployments. Up here, I've only been up here a week, so I don't have a whole album or anything specific, but actually I was working out the other day, and Frank's probably going to laugh at me for this one, but the song A Whole New World came on from Aladdin. I don't know if you're old enough to have seen Aladdin, but my name's Jasmin, like Princess Jasmine. So when I was in elementary school and Aladdin came out, people would always sing A Whole New World to me. And I thought the words were really fitting. One, in Aladdin, when that song is being sung, they're on a magic carpet flying around. And here in space, I love floating through the different modules, and I feel kind of like a superhero flying around. And then second, just the words, a whole new world. And from up here, looking back on Earth, it's totally changed my perspective, and it does feel like a whole new world. So I'd have to say that song was one that really stuck out to me when I was working out the other day, and I've listened to a few times since then.
Hi, my name is Andrea, and my question is, what experiments are conducted on the International Space Station to learn more about living in space?
Hey, Andrea. Well, I'm still saying A Whole New World in my head. No, like I said, one of the key things that we do up here as astronauts is see how humans respond to space. So a lot of the science focuses on us. We're doing simple things like, hey, how does eating a different type of diet affect your performance in space? We also do a lot of medical procedures like ultrasounds of our eyes and our different blood vessels, because we want to see how living up here in space for 6 to 12 months affects those systems. But then we also do some really cool things on things like combustion, right? So in space, without gravity, you also don't have the movement of essentially more dense and less dense particles as they heat up, right? And so convection that happens on Earth doesn't really happen here in space. And that's really important for things like fuel, right? And especially rocket fuel, because we want those things to work up here. So we study things like that, and we see how combustion happens. If you light a candle in space, it actually doesn't form that little tip because, again, there's no convection happening. And so it actually forms a little sphere. We don't get to light candles because it's a fire hazard, but we've seen videos of some of the science experiments that happen up here. So all those things will help us not just to live on the space station, but live eventually over in the moon and eventually in Mars, which will be pretty cool.
Hi, my name is Lane, and my question is, how often do you do math on the International Space Station?
Lane, so you're probably wondering if the math is really worth it. So actually, every day, not necessarily sitting down with a pencil and paper doing math, but even just getting around the space station. If I want to go a certain direction, I have to put that force through my center of gravity to go that way. And then, oh no, I grabbed on here, but my center of gravity is offset, so I rotate. And so every single time we're just moving around the space station, we're using math and physics to figure out how I should, input a moment or a translational force. And the other day I had to move a big object through the space station. I had to think about not just my center of gravity, but now me with this object and that center of gravity. And so I think we're kind of constantly doing math up here, and sometimes for the different experiments we need to use those skills as well. So it's basically a daily thing.
Hi, my name is Viviana, and my question is, in your opinion and experience, how important is it to see diverse representation lead the frontier of space exploration?
Hey, Viviana. Well, you know what? I think it's really important, but I think it's equally as important to pick the most qualified people out there. And that's because this is a really tough mission, and so you want to make sure that everyone that does this mission is incredibly capable and able to handle it. But the cool thing is, and unfortunately, I don't really like to talk about accomplishments because, I don't want to sound boastful. But in this case, Jasmin graduated from MIT. She's a Cobra pilot. She's a Marine test pilot. Like I said, I've been in the Army for 20 plus years. I started off as a Black Hawk pilot. I then became a medical doctor. and I've worked with special forces and lots of other things. But the cool thing is, the reality is, if you pick the most qualified people now in our country, you're going to have great gender representation. You're going to have great representation from different ethnic backgrounds. And we're going to look like America because a lot of highly qualified people are out there. So hopefully you guys will keep hitting the books. And someday we're going to be sitting there looking at you guys and thinking, wow, they are so incredibly qualified and way more qualified than we were ever. So we look forward to seeing what your generation has to offer.
Hi, my name is Santiago, and my question is, how would you explain the International Space Station's protection from radiation to a fifth grader?
Hi, Santiago. So in terms of on the International Space Station and our protection from radiation, there are lots of different types of radiation. And thankfully, we're in low Earth orbit, so we're still inside the Van Allen belt. So the Earth's magnetic field protects us from a lot of the radiation. We also have the structure of the space station around us. And if there are times, when we track a specific event coming, like a high activity solar flare event or something, we can also use additional things like just water. We regenerate a lot of our own water, so that's a resource we could use to create additional barriers to help protect us. Obviously, once we start going further in the solar system and past the Van Allen belt, we'll have to consider more things to protect us from radiation, and that's why a lot of the missions that go up, for example, Artemis 1 had some mannequins on it or models that were carrying sensors in the torso to detect a lot of the radiation so that we can be prepared for those missions as we go further.
Hi, my name is Madalia, and my question is, what happens if someone gets sick on the space station?
Hi, Mandalia. Yeah, Jasmine's tapping my shoulder because as a doctor, I'm currently acting as the chief medical officer, but there's not always a doctor on board. And so we all go through medical training, and including Jasmine. So if I were to get sick, she would be taking care of me. And so we all get a basic amount of medical training. But the best thing is that we all stay pretty healthy, and we all stay in pretty good shape. And so that helps us really not get sick up here. The other thing we do is we use quarantine, right, which now after COVID we're all familiar with. But we've been doing that since humans have been living in space. And that's because, so we basically spend 2 weeks before our launch isolated from other people. And that's because we don't want to bring any new viruses. We don't want to be sick when we fly up here. And generally, you're only exposed to 6 other humans while you're on the station. So there's just not a whole lot of viruses up here to get you sick. The one thing that can throw you off, though, as Jasmine said, is your vestibular system, right? So you can get a little sick the first few days you get here. And if you think about it, right, if I jump up here, if I did this on Earth and I started standing like this, my brain would really just not be able to handle it. And so the first couple days when you're up here and you're doing that a lot, it really throws you off, and a lot of people get nauseous, and some people throw up. But we have medicine for all that, and within a few days you adapt, and then it feels perfectly normal.
Hi, my name is Caitlin. My question is, can you describe your most awe-inspiring or memorable moment during your time in space?
Sure, Caitlin, that's a great question. It's, this is my first week in space, so I have a lot of things are coming to mind, but I'll mention kind of 2. The first one I'll mention is when we first got to space station, it seemed very busy at first and a bit disorienting. As Frank described, I was looking at things from a totally different perspective than I had before, and after training hundreds of hours in these modules, couldn't even tell where I was because now the ceiling was the floor and vice versa. But Andy finally pulled me over. He's done a mission to the space station before, and he was like, "Have you gone to the cupola yet?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And he took me to the cupola, which is our, Earth-facing window, and he opened the shutters, and you know, it was just an amazing view, not just of Earth and our beautiful planet, but also seeing the International Space Station. And it's just such a marvel, this thing we've constructed in space. And then the second one I'll say was right after second engine cut off, you know, you suddenly are in weightlessness, and I felt like I was just hanging upside down from my restraints. And so at first I was like, okay, this just feels a little uncomfortable, actually. And then finally it was time for us to get out of our seats, and I unbuckled, and that was my first experience floating. And that was just incredible. And I also broke out some of my candy-coated peanuts. Frank, would you like some?
Sure.
All right, I'll have you hold that.
We get to play with our food in space. And almost every day we get to play with our food, which is kind of one of the cool things of being an astronaut.
Howdy, my name's Colonel Mike Fossum. I'm a retired astronaut now, but I spent 194 days in space during my 3 missions to the International Space Station. This brings back a lot of memories. I really want to thank NASA and the astronauts on board the space station today for bringing this opportunity to the Valley through the South Texas Astronomical Society. I also want to thank Victor de los Santos for your efforts to lead this group and inspire today's youth. I grew up in McAllen, down on the border with the rest of you. I dreamed about flying in space when I watched Apollo 11 put the first footprints on the moon. People laughed. People said I was crazy. Part of me gave up on even believing the dream was possible, but I never completely gave up. I had teachers and friends and family who believed in me and supported me to go to college and the opportunities beyond, continuing to lean forward until it finally came true. Pray that you will continue, you will believe in your dreams, and you will reach every day toward striving to achieve those dreams. If you believe it and you're willing to work hard enough for it every single day, you can do amazing things. Thanks again for a great day.
Thanks so much, Mike, and thank you all to the members of STARS. Keep studying and keep working towards your dreams. Take care.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants.